So we're back with part two. So what we want to do, we looked at some of these sites and we talked about common headers, common footers. So in activity one, you had to, in your quiz, find the functions that we could use for linking one file into another in PHP. So we had four. We had require, require once, include, and include once. They all basically do the same things. Obviously, the once means we can only link a file in one time per page. And the difference between include and require will throw an error if our linked file isn't found, whereas include will just throw a warning. Those of you who have a textbook, in the textbook examples, they use require once. So I'm going to use require once in my pages. It really doesn't matter if you want to use one of the other functions instead. So I think I mentioned in video one, we will need all of our files from last week. So if you haven't already done so, if you want to go into your week 6 folder, just select and copy. You don't need an images folder. I just have that in mine. You can copy all the PHP files, make a week 8 folder, and paste them in. So what we want to do is we're going to open up our code editor. Once we've got a copy of all the files from week 6, I'm going to open my code editor. And maybe for now I'll just call this COMP1006 working application. So in here in the header, what we actually want to do is create a little navigation bar. So I'm going to create a nav tag. We'll style it later. And in here we'll want a few links. Typically we'll use an unordered list and we'll put in a series of links. So the first link that we want, put in an li tag and an ahref. We'll have our link go to movies.php. For proper HTML formatting, we should give it a title of movies. And we'll put in the text as movies. We'll put in a couple of other links. We created pages called register and log in. So for now, we'll put those links in our header. We'll kind of do this one bit at a time. So we'll give this a title of register. And the text of our link will say register. We'll create a third link that goes to log in. Give it a title of login. So I'm going to save this file in my week 8 directory. And I'm going to call this one header.php. So now what I want to do is I want to include or require this header in our other pages. So I'm going to open up, maybe we'll start with my we'll start with our login page. I'm not logged in right now to the site. So I'm going to go to my login page. I'll open that up. So where do we want the header to go? Well, it probably makes sense to put it up here. So if I open a set of PHP tags and enter the function require once, my code editor recognizes this. It prompts me with a parameter telling, okay, what's the name of the file you want to require or link? So I'll put in header.php. So I'm going to save that file. So we're going to require our header file, and I'll close my PHP tags. I'm going to save this page. And what we should now see above our login page when I upload this, what we should actually see is our little navigation bar up at the top. So I'm going to connect to my server. I can just click on reconnect, nice little feature in FileZilla. It'll take us back to the last server and keep us on our current directory. So I'm going to refresh my directory. Sorry, I want to go into week 8. And I'm going to need to create a week 8 folder on the server. I'll open that up. So for starters, I'm going to bring my login page. I'll upload my header. We'll leave that for now. We're going to have to change the other pages in a bit. So now in my browser, I will load login.php. And we can see now we've got some work to do on styling, but here is the HTML. Here are the links from our header. I get a 404 not found because I haven't uploaded those other pages, but the links are active. They do work. Maybe what I'll do is just add this onto my register page as well, so we can see even when we go page to page that this header is shared. So I'm just going to open up register. And also, before my first HTML tag at the top, I'll add a require once function. We will require header.php. I'll upload my register page. And now when I click my link, so we have this shared header on both pages. Pretty good so far. Now, we'll have to fix the styling. There's one other thing we're going to have to fix. There is still an issue with this. It looks okay to the end user. However, when I view the source of the page, we've got an issue. You'll notice in my browser, it's marking these HTML tags in head, body in red. Why? Well, we have two sets of doc type, HTML head, and body tags. A well-formed HTML document really only has one set. We have one set of HTML tags, one set of header tags, one set of body tags, and one doc type tag. And that needs to be the first line of the file that gets rendered to the browser. So we've basically got two choices. If we look at our register page, we're going to see the same thing. Again, we've got two sets of these HTML head, doc type, and body tags. So how are we going to do this? So we either can keep these kinds of tags in our header.php and remove them from all our other pages, or we can keep all the HTML tags inside the individual pages and just load our header file. Instead of loading it up at the very top, we can load it, for example, maybe down in here inside the body of the page. There's no right and there's no wrong, but I can think of one really good reason why it makes more sense for us to keep these HTML declarations in our header and remove them from the individual pages. Part of the reason is our header, we want to share things like our Bootstrap CSS and our jQuery files. By putting them, if we make our header, which contains our HTML head section, which I'm closing here. If by keeping all this section of the HTML in our header, we don't have to repeat it on every page. So again, if we want to add or change a style sheet, we only have to go one place. We have to go to header.php rather than changing this stuff on every single page. So again, from a maintenance point of view, from a coding efficiency point of view, I think it makes a lot more sense that we keep these things in our header file. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the head section from my register page. I'm going to copy that. Actually, I'm going to copy it. And in my header.php, I'm going to replace the header that's there. Now, we will have an issue with the title. We'll come back to that. Actually, you know what? I'll make it a little simpler. I'm just going to take my Bootstrap links. So my two CSS links and my Bootstrap JavaScript link, I'm going to copy those, and in they go to the head section on header.php. What this will allow me to do is now, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to keep my opening body tag. So all of this HTML is going to live in the header. We can now remove it from everything above the opening body tag. We can simply delete from our register page And same with our login. I'm going to take everything from the doc type up to and including the body tag. I'm just going to take it right out. Now my code editor is complaining. It's saying my end body and end HTML tags are invalid because it doesn't know that the opening body and opening HTML tags can now be found in the header. So we'll leave those for a minute, but shortly we'll replace these, and we're actually going to move those to a separate file, which will be our footer. So I'm going to save these changes to header.php. That we've got our style sheets in JavaScript. I'm going to save my changes to login, where everything in between those two lines of code is now gone. Same on my register page. The first line is linking our header, and then the first line of HTML code is simply our main section. So I'm going to re-upload all three files. I like to, if I sort by date, this shows me any files that were modified most recently. So I'm going to re-upload header, login, and register. I'm going to say yes, always overwrite the files on the server. And we'll come back. We won't see any visible change to our application. It still looks the same. Our header's still here. However, now when we look at our HTML source, well, it's almost clean, right? We have one doc type, one HTML head, one body tag. Now, we still have an issue here. Why? Because our header, we're closing the body and closing the HTML in header.php before we get to main. So we'll need to replace that. So in my header, this ending nav tag, this is the end of our header file. Okay? We don't need these because those have to come after the page content. So I'm going to take those end body, end HTML tags out. I'll upload my header once again. And now our HTML source should be clean. It is. We have nothing in red. So we have a full, properly formatted HTML document. Now notice, you'll notice the title. This is a bit of an issue. No matter what page I'm on, in our header we called it COMP1006 working application. So we've lost the original page titles. If we go back and look at our files from last week, if I look at week 6, my page title was called register. On my login page, my page title was called login. Yet now we have this one common header that says working application. So here's a quick fix. What we want to do in our header is we want to make the page title into a variable. Okay? So I'm going to create a variable. I'll call my variable $page title, and we'll put it in here. So what do we need to do now? How do we get that title to show up? If I upload it, right now my page title is going to be blank. Just shows me the URL. There is no hard-coded page title anymore. So what we want to do on our login page, before we require our header, we're going to want to set the page title variable. So we're going to want to do the same thing now. I'm going to save that change. And on my register page, we're going to do the exact same thing. Before we link to our header, we'll set the page title variable. So I'm going to save all those changes. So notice we're declaring and giving our variable a value on this page, and then if we link to the header afterwards, the header should be aware of our page title variable and know what it is. So this is one of the neat features about including or requiring files, is variables are shared from one file to the next. So I'm going to upload all 3 of these pages. And now when I click register, now my title's back. When I click login, the page title says login. So we just need to make sure, it's important that we set this variable first and then we load the header. On our register page, same thing. We're going to set our variable first and then we're going to load the header. Okay. There's a couple other things we're going to do on the header. It doesn't look very good. So we're going to use a bit of some Bootstrap classes in terms of formatting these. So what we want, it's hard to remember all the classes that are available in Bootstrap. So I'm going to go to the Bootstrap page and we can look at their sample theme. So if I look at the Bootstrap theme, if I just right click on the nav bar and choose inspect element, my browser will show me the classes that are used. So we can give our nav tag a class of navbar. We'll see what that does. I'll go to my header. And they've given the UL a class of nav space navbar dash nav. So we'll try that. So what we want to do is have the bullets go away, and we want our links, rather than being stacked vertically, they should be stacked horizontally across the page. So I've added these 2 classes into header. I'm going to upload it. And we'll refresh our page and see how it looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. So no background across the page, but our bullets are gone and now our links are horizontal. Now, another thing that we want to do, we'll maybe put in here before our UL, we'll put in a title. Let's see, let's make a page. We're going to make a page called default. Title equals so we're going to create a separate link, and I'm going to give it, just like in the Bootstrap theme, a class of navbar-brand. So I'm going to make a link to a default page we're going to create. So this should make a link in larger text than our links to the left, which is typical. We can expect almost serving really as like a logo, but we're using text. I'm going to upload that. So now we have this. Now we don't have our default page, but we can create one really quickly. So we get 404 not found. That's fine. We can go ahead and make a default page. So you can start to see how our header is going to come together. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new PHP page. Now, we don't need all of this stuff. All of that stuff is in the header already. So we're simply going to delete it. Open with PHP tags, and we'll set our page title variable. Call it COMP1006 app home. And we'll require our header file. we'll just create some simple static content. And we'll just put on some text here that says, welcome to COMP1006 working application. In this site, we are using HTML, CSS, PHP, and MySQL to learn about building dynamic web applications. And I'm going to give this one a Bootstrap class of, add a little formatting format. It's called Jumbotron. So I'm going to save this one. Again, the content doesn't really matter. You can just put in filler content if you like. So I'm going to save this one as default.php. Again, we'll deal with our tags at the bottom. So we're setting a page title, we're linking in our header, and then we just have a paragraph of text in the middle of the page. So I'm going to save default. I'll refresh my directories. So now when I click on home, here's our home page in effect. So now users can go to register, they can go to login, or they can go back to the home page at any time. Okay. We will put our movies page up, but not yet. We're going to make some changes to it. So we've got, much like Amazon or Globe and Mail, where we've got a common header, we've now created this simple common header. We've styled it with Bootstrap. So it's starting to look like a proper application. So now what we want to do is we want to build a small footer at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new PHP page. I'm going to take out all of the HTML. Remember, all of this already lives in the header. And what I'm going to do is create a footer class. And I'm going to put in a copyright statement using @copy 2015. I'll put in my name. And I think I'm going to give this a class. I'm going to style it with Bootstrap. So if we inspect another element, maybe I want to use something like this yellow. So if I inspect that element, it tells me it's a class of alert, alert, warning. So I'm maybe going to try that class out and see. I'm going to save this file. So we're going to keep these tags here, and then we can remove them from all of our other pages. So I'm going to save this one as footer.php. Upload footer to the server. You know, I can load footer on its own, even though it's only part of a page. There's no styling because we haven't linked to the Bootstrap links are in our header. So now on my login.php, I'm going to replace those two tags at the bottom. I'm going to delete them. And now we're going to use require once footer.php. I'm going to save my login, and I'm going to do the very same thing on register and on default. We're going to take out end body and end HTML, and instead those tags will come from our footer. I'll save register, and we'll go to default as well. I'm going to delete those. And I'll save default. So now you can see how modular our pages are. The only things our pages contain, on default, it's simply the static content, our welcome message. On register, it's simply our registration form. And on login, it's our login form. The other shared functionality is broken out into the header and footer. So now if we want to make changes to the header, change the footer, we only have to open up header.php or open up footer.php, and all the pages that share those files will automatically get updated. So I'm going to upload default, register, and login. We've just changed them all. And now I'm going to go back, I'm going to click on home. So now we have our footer spanning the bottom. And our footer stays on all of our pages, which is great. Now we could play around with the styling if we want to route the footer down to the bottom of the page. That is something we could do if we wanted to. I'm just going to leave it as it is. We'll just let the footer appear at the base of our form. So now our site's starting to look like a proper application. Okay. Now, one thing we haven't done is we haven't changed the movies pages that we have. We really only have 2 visible pages. Right. I'm just going to upload my movies page. Actually, I need to upload all the other pages we have yet to upload. So if I put them back in alphabetical order, the pages we're still missing are from menu down to validate. Register's already here. So I'm going to upload menu, movie, movies, save registration, and validate. I'm going to put all those pages on the server in my week 8. So now all the files from my local file system are here on the server. Now I should be able to log in with the login I created back in week 6. If you can't remember your login, you need to click on your register link and create a new account. My suggestion is use test@test.com and test as the password. Oops, I just need to put in my password to get my files to work. So now when I log in, when I hit refresh, so now we get to our main menu page, and when I click on movies, I have movies. But notice our pages are missing our header and footer, as well as if I go to edit a movie or add a new movie, we don't have our header. So what do we want to do? Well, on movies.php, I'm going to want to do the same thing. Right? So on movies.php, I want to take out the opening doc type HTML and body tag. Oops, I'm in the wrong page. In movies, I'm going to take out all of this stuff. We don't need any of it. We don't need the Bootstrap links. All of that stuff's going to come from the header instead. So I'm going to delete it all. And I'm going to move my PHP tag to the first line, and I'm going to put in 2 comments. Set page title equals movies. Link to the header. I'm also going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to remove my endbody and end.html, and before my PHP tag closes, I'm going to require once footer.php. I'm going to save those changes. I'm also going to open up my menu page. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take out everything up to and including the opening body tag, and instead I'll put in a PHP tag, set my page title, we'll require our header, and close the PHP tag so we can display the HTML. Down at the bottom, I'm taking out my last 2 HTML tags, and we'll put in our footer. So I'm going to save those files. So now when I go back to my menu page, and refresh it, now our menu page has our header and footer, and when I click on movies, our movies page has it as well. If I go to movie.php, well, we're going to need to change this one as well. So our movie page also needs our header and footer. So I'm going to load my movie page. I'm going to put my header and footer in here as well. Then we'll just need to do one more thing. So now I've opened up my movie page, and I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to take out everything, all the HTML up to and including the body tag. Put in a title of movie details and require our header. I'm not going to close my PHP tag here because we want all this code to run, and it's closed here. Then at the bottom of our form, one more time, I'm going to take out the end body and end HTML, open a set of PHP tags, and we will require our footer. So I'm going to save and upload that file, and then our movie page should be formatted properly as well. So I've saved and uploaded that change, and when I refresh, now our movie page has a header and footer. So now we have a way to get out of here. I can click back to go back to the movies. Okay. And edit and delete. The one other thing we want to do here, last change we want to make, is we want to make it so that these links are dependent on whether our user is logged in or logged out. When a user hasn't logged in, we want register and login to be visible, but we want movies to be hidden. There's no reason for somebody who hasn't logged in to see this link because they can't get here unless they've logged in. Once a user has gone through the login process, we want these two links to be hidden, and we want the movies link to appear. So one more change in our header. So I'm going to go back to header. Right now we have all of these links showing up. So we're going to wrap these links inside of an if statement. So here's how we're going to check. I'm going to open a set of PHP tags. First, we're going to access the current session. And we'll say if not empty $session user ID. If our session user ID is not empty, that means the user's logged in. In this case, we want to, I'm going to close my PHP tag here. So if we have a valid user ID, we want to show the movies link. Now I'll need to go back into PHP and close that curly brace. So it's open and closed here. There's our condition. Otherwise, the user isn't logged in, so we want to hide the movies link and show them the register and login links as well. I realize this code is a little messy. We're kind of going, this is known as spaghetti code, where we're going in and out of PHP. So we're in PHP here because we need to check on the server, we need to check the session. If the session's not empty, then we want to display the following HTML. Otherwise, our if condition closes here, and the start of our next condition appears here. And I did forget PHP in front of my opening tags. So our tags are open, closed, open, closed, and open, closed. I'm going to save my header. I'm going to re-upload it. And now if I refresh my browser, I didn't get what I wanted. Let's see. So register and log in are here. Once we log in, I said access the current session, but notice it always evaluates to empty. It never shows this link. Why? Well, because we forgot to call session start. And now check if the user is authenticated or not and show the corresponding header links. Without calling session start, session user ID is always empty. So now when I refresh my movies, aha, one other problem. Headers already sent. Well, we've seen this before, right? We saw this when we tried to use a redirection. So we need to do one more thing to prevent this headers already sent message. What is it? Well, the same thing we've done on our previous page is at the very top on the first line of our header.php, we are going to start our output buffering, which also means on our footer, we need to, at the very end, in PHP tags, flush our output buffering. So we've added this line to footer.php, and we've added this line to header.php. This should get rid of that error. I'm going to re-upload header and footer. And now when I refresh my movies page, my error goes away and notice it says movies. Okay? Even if I try to go to the login page, I'm still logged in this browser, so it shows the movies link. It knows I'm logged in. I have access to that page. If I go to a private window or a different browser, notice the difference. In this version, I haven't logged in this window, so I'm not authenticated. If I try and go straight to my movies page, whoops, I had neglected to put my authentication check on my movies page. You did it in class last week. My version that I copied didn't have that. So now if I go to Chrome or refresh in my private Firefox window, when I try to go to movies in this browser, I'm not logged in. So in this larger version, my movies link is still here because I'm logged in. Yet in this Firefox window where I'm not logged in, I get the register and login links. So this is how we'll build our headers and footers. That's going to be it for this video. And what we're also going to do in the next activity is look at sharing the code for our database connection and authentication check. So stay tuned.